In November 1984, I made a trip to Egypt. And I have to admit that I knew absolutely nothing about Egypt when I went there. This would be my first Middle Eastern country, my first Arab country, and my first predominantly Muslim country. And I knew nothing about the Middle East or Arabs or Islam. I knew nothing about it. And that was just the way I liked to do things back then. I just like to go and see. I also say that the reason why I went there was to see the pyramids, which is about all I knew about Egypt, learning from as a little kid, the pyramids. So that's why I went there. But I did actually know some things, some current events in high school. I did know a little bit. For example, I did know that in 1979, Egypt and Israel signed what is known as the Camp David Accords. And this would bring peace to Egypt and Israel, which was very important to me because the next country I was going to go visit was Israel. And actually, the Camp David Accords made it easy to go from Egypt to Israel. And also, I want to point out, here we have President Anwar Sadat of Egypt, President Jimmy Carter of the United States, and Prime Minister Menachem Begin of Israel, who are all shaking hands on the White House lawn from the White House. And Sadat and Begin will later go on to win the Nobel Peace Prize. I also know that a couple years after this, Sadat was assassinated by Islamic fundamentalist soldiers who attacked him when they were doing, they had this parade that the soldiers attacked them in the stands there and killed them. And but you know what? A lot of stuff didn't make much difference to me in terms of my travels. I was not afraid of fundamentalist Muslim soldiers in Egypt. In fact, all I knew was perfectly safe to travel around Egypt. Except that I know in Cairo, oftentimes I would see these very young, like teenage boys in army uniforms carrying AK-47. A little bit older than this guy, but they're all throughout Cairo. There are these guys in front of banks, and they look way too young to have AK-47, so I couldn't quite figure out what that was about. I don't think it had anything to do with Islamic fundamentalists, but that was my attitude going in there. But the way I go is, I have a visa, that's all I need. I hit the ground. And when I hit the ground, though, in Cairo International Airport, I realized there's much, much more to Egypt than the pyramids. And it's like traveling through any kind of third world city. I traveled at this point through many third world cities, and Cairo was like a great third world city. And so it was just like when I went through Bangkok or Bombay or Delhi, Madras, Calcutta or Kathmandu. There's an energy in these third world cities that kind of just turns me on. And like I get going once I hit the ground. But it's all very exciting, very energizing. And the way I did these third world cities was that I would tend to focus on the non-tourist parts of the city. I would just wander around through neighborhoods. I just like doing that because when I wander around through neighborhoods, I would meet real people who would treat you like real people. When you went to tourist areas, they always treated you like somebody they can make money off of. And I didn't care for that kind of interaction. So I just wandered through these neighborhoods and meet these people, and that's just the way I kind of enjoyed doing it. I would see, the way real people lived. And as I did that, I tended to come to a sense that how much we shared in common, even though there's differences in culture between people. When you travel around people who are not used to seeing Americans or Westerners in their neighborhoods, you realize, they're just trying to make a living. They're trying to get by. They're raising a family. They're living, they're loving, just like me, and a shared humanity. And so I like that feeling much more than, say, just going to tourist places. The only downside about traveling through the non-touristed areas was that they didn't speak English. Okay, so I would go, and I didn't speak their language, right? So there was this sort of problem of how do you communicate with these real people? And I learned my first travels traveling around in Thailand, like in Bangkok, that this thing I call my international sign language, which had nothing whatsoever to do with the way people communicate with non-hearing peoples and other parts of the world, like the official international sign language. My international sign language, I guess I could define it as sort of miming, like miming, but with no rules whatsoever of what I do with my mouth or any body part. So you can do whatever you want to. There's no rules like, oh, this means whatever. No, it's communication is the key. So you do whatever you need to do to communicate. You mime as much as, and you throw in whatever you need to. Like, for example, if you're going to a store and you want to buy toilet paper, you don't worry about any kind of, embarrassment. You say, you wipe your butt with your hand kind of thing. And that's, they know exactly that means toilet paper. So, I don't have to know what the Arabic word was for toilet paper. Get by it. I definitely get toilet paper every single time. All right, so anyway, that is my international sign language, which is going to play a role in my story. And as I traveled around through this, I met the people there were very friendly. In fact, the friendliest people that I met. The adults wandering through these neighborhoods would see me, and many times they would invite me to sit down and have some tea with them and chat and talk and smoke a hookah occasionally, which is, by the way, this is not marijuana. This is a very strong form of tobacco, and I didn't inhale, so that's okay, totally legal. But this was very friendly. The adults there, women not so friendly necessarily. They might smile discreetly, but the guys there could be very friendly, and I sit down and have a talk. Now, a lot of them, once they realize I was an American, and very few Americans go to these third world countries, right? Mostly they're Westerners or like Australians or like Europeans. But when they learned I was American, they got very fascinated in America because they'd all seen American television, they'd seen American movies, and they always wanted to know, is it really like that? Is it really like that? They always believe it must be really, but they're not certain, is it really like that? They see it. Like they saw Dallas, I don't know if you've seen those series Dallas, where they have those rich Texas oil millionaires. And are everybody really rich Texas oil millionaires in the United States? And I say, no. And so we'd have a conversation. Now, there was some tension. Sometimes, they did oppose American foreign policy. They had issues about what the United States did. But they were fascinated with the United States, too, this sort of love-hate relationship. Enough to make them want to learn more about me and talk with me. So I had really nice conversations. And I said, enjoyed a few cups of tea and stuff. But the thing that really made it special in Egypt were the children. Oh, sorry. Oh, that story. So let me set up the children's story. I was also in Egypt. I met some other people sometimes when I would travel with them. And this one time, this guy and I decided we were going to go to the mosque of Ibn Tulum, which is the oldest and the largest mosque in Cairo. And we were walking from a hotel, and I wasn't, my tendency was just wander around. I didn't care whether I got lost. We didn't have good maps, and we were wandering through downtown area of Cairo, trying to find this oldest and largest mosque. And we just ended up going through these neighborhoods. And wherever we went in these neighborhoods, these kids would come up and start saying, hello, 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 hello. I mean, like 20 kids would start surrounding us there on the streets of Cairo, saying hello, hello, hello. And I'd say hello, hello, hello back. And so we had this one, and they didn't ask for like other places I've traveled. The kids would say bakshish. I don't know if you know bakshish. It's like give me something, give me something. These kids never said bakshish. They never said give me something. It was always hello, big smiles, and they're all circling wherever we went. And they would go with us for however long we wanted to go, just keep following us until they were out of their neighborhood. And sometimes, just for the heck of it, I'd walk by a kid who didn't see me, and I'd say, hello, and they get this big smile, and they'd say, hello. It was like everywhere, and the people were so friendly. These kids especially were just incredibly friendly. So I had this wonderful experience, with kids there. When I met some people, and we got kind of tired of the big city. I mean, third world cities kind of drain you after a while. They're very exciting, but they drain you. So I met this English bloke and a couple of Australian gals, and whatever. And we decided to go out to this oasis, which is, you can barely see it on the bottom of the screen, the Bahariya Oasis, one of the bigger oases in Egypt. And so here we are up in Cairo. And we're going to take this bus to go down to the Bahariya Oasis. And this is a very long drive by bus. We took a bus out there. You're like 4 hours of desert, very nameless, ugly desert, not very much interesting whatsoever. That's pretty much everything, when you move away from the Nile River, you get this desert. But then, after a 4-hour drive, we come upon this scene, and this is the Bahariya Oasis. You just come out of the middle of this desert, you see green, you see palm trees. And this is a particularly, a big oasis. This oasis had a long history. It goes back to the pharaohs, the time of the pharaohs, and then later played a big role in the camel caravans that crisscrossed the Sahara Desert. It was a major stopping point for camel caravans, and now today it's a major stopping point for tourists who are going to the Sahara. They want to get out into the desert. In and around the area, there's some pretty interesting formations. They have these conical formations. This used to be an inland sea, and these conical-shaped domed hills were actually like islands that were they popped up above the sea level. And so, we came up there, we're going to explore these formations and tool around this area. But the people I with, for some reason, they were, they just wanted to sit around and relax after Cairo. And I was much more likely to get out there on the street and, and want to look at the people and see just what it was like in one of a little oasis town like this. Actually, it was more than just one town. There were like half a dozen villages there, and there were dozens of these springs out there. It was a huge oasis, and so, but this is the main village that we stayed in was Bawiti. That's where we got this little cheap dive to stay in. And just wandering around, this was the main village of Bawiti. You met some of these people. The people are called the Wahati, and they actually are descendants of the original inhabitants of this area. I mean, going back to like the times of the pharaohs, these people and their ancestors have been there forever. But all that, by the way, I just told you, I wouldn't have known that in 1984. I was ignorant. I just showed up and, it's Oasis. Let's go wander around the town. Anyway, it's a pretty sleepy little town, not much going on. And we went on a couple of desert tours, but mostly it was like relaxing, hanging around. So after doing that for a couple of days, I said, it's time to go on a walkabout. I'm not going to just sit around. And so I decided to wander around and see what life was like in one of the oases. And here there's definitely a lot of palm groves that you find there. And I started walking down the village and just wandered down through these palm groves. And I realized as I'm walking through these palm groves and these village streets that there is this increasing number of children that are following me. And I remember them originally saying hello, hello. It's just they started following me like the Pied Piper. Like I'm wandering through and they're trying to see where I'm going. They're not stopping, they're just following wherever I go. And eventually I realized they are saying hello, 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 just like the kids in Cairo, right? So anyway, I, having like a regular time like I had in Cairo. And here are the kids there smiling away and laughing and having a good old time. It was just kind of interesting because this was tourists did come to these oases, but apparently, just like in Cairo, tourists don't go to the places I go. They don't go wandering around the village streets or going to the palm groves. They stay back in their inn, or they're out on one of these organized trips out there in the desert. But anyway, I'm pretty rare, I guess, and the kids are following me. And, suddenly, as the kids are following me, I got the urge to say something in Arabic. It's like, these kids keep saying hello, hello, and that's the only thing, and they say hello, hello, but there's got to be more to a conversation than just hello, hello, hello. And so I think I upped the ante, so I want to figure out, to say something in Arabic to them. And I realized, darn, I didn't learn a single Arabic word so far. I did, usually when I traveled, I would at least learn to say like, how much, that's a key thing, how much, before you eat it, you want to make sure how much something is, or good morning, or, whatever. Like, salam alaikum, like we say, it would be wonderful if I had just learned that phrase, which I've taught you guys, if you read the Arabs book, some of those phrases, you would be a lot better positioned here than I was. I knew nothing, I blanked on it, I did not learn a single number. I assumed the people there spoke enough English, which was true in the cities, but in many places, the kids, they didn't know much English except hello, hello. So I'm in there and I'm trying to figure out what kind of Arabic word. And as a result, as it turns out, this wasn't such a good idea. I said my knowledge of Arabic wasn't really good. I didn't have a phrase book or anything like that. So I thought hard and hard and hard and hard. What do I know? Do I know an Arabic word? And eventually I remembered, I know an Arabic word. And so I looked at the kids, and they're all like staring at me, like waiting for this great thing. I'm going to say this wonderful thing to them, or whatever I'm going to do. They're just like bated breath, waiting for it. And I said very clearly, and right at them I said, Jihad. And it was amazing the transformation that went on in these kids. From these bright, shiny, happy kids, all of a sudden it was like this black pall came upon, like, what did you say? They weren't clear. And I think I said it again, Jihad, thinking, maybe they didn't understand me clear. Oh no, they understood exactly what I said. I guess my pronunciation was pretty good, or whatever. But there was this whole black, and all of a sudden I realized these kids, and I didn't know exactly what they were saying, but they had their little finger like this, and they were saying, no Jihad. I mean, English, if it was English, I don't know, but it would sound like, no Jihad, no Jihad, no Jihad. And they started slowly backing away from me, like this backing away, backing away, backing away. And so I thought of saying, explaining why I said that. Like, well, I just couldn't think of any other word to say. So don't you get it? I just couldn't think of any word to say. And there's like, they didn't get that. No, John, no, John, no, John. And then I said, my sense of humor. Okay. Yeah, it's like Monty Python. It's like something weird. It's definitely not politically correct to say that. I understand that now, but it's kind of funny, isn't it? Like, who would say that, right? Who would say that? And they're going, no, and they're walking further away, and I'm kind of keep doing this whole spiel for like, like, what are you doing? This is crazy, right? They're staring at me like, they're further away than this at that point. They're like backing up, and I'm doing this for a minute or so, and they realize, oh shoot, it's kind of bad. I blew it. It was this friendly kind of thing, and now I've kind of told this really off story. And so I have to give up. So I turned around and I started going back up the street to the place where we're staying, and all of a sudden, ow! I get a pain in my back, and I look around, and there was this rock on the ground, and I said, "What the hell?" And these kids are now running away. They're running away from me, and I said. And the first thing I thought was, you know what, I'm going to pick this rock up and I'm going to get one of these damn kids, right? That's what I thought, because I was angry. I was pissed at these kids. I was so friendly to them, saying hello, 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 just like they were. And now, all of a sudden they're throwing rocks at me. And then I started realizing, that they may, actually, I should show this scene here. I thought of them like that, even though they were a lot younger than this, and they were running away, and there wasn't multiple rock throwers. This is a picture from the Palestinian Intifada, which was a few years later. But that's the way I thought. Like, I was under attack by rock throwing, Arabs. And so I was about to, launch, I was going to get revenge for this attack upon my person. And so, but then, I started thinking, hey, you know what? I'm the adult. They're just kids, right? And you know what? Maybe they actually thought I was declaring holy war on them. Maybe they thought I was declaring how else could you explain how a Western-looking person, I don't know if they knew I was an American, but how can they explain why a Western-looking person would say jihad? Why would they do that unless they were serious about it, right? This was a serious effort. I was starting a holy war against them, and so maybe that's what, how else can you explain this sort of black paw, this immediate reaction? This was not a joking matter for them, right? And so anyway, I had this rock in my hand here, the rock they threw at me. And I also started thinking, I learned, now this was a little bit later, I didn't know this at the time, but I understand that jihad does not have to mean holy war. And I've done this in my world cultures class. Jihad can mean internal struggle. And I realized that. Why did the kids not think I was involved in an internal struggle? Why did they not think that there was an internal struggle with my faith when I said that? And, maybe they just assumed I wasn't a Muslim. I don't know. Maybe they did. I don't know why. That's racist kind of thinking, to think I'm not a Muslim. But, they just didn't seem to get it. They just assumed that I guess I was launching a whole... And I guess they have to respect the kid who threw the rock because he got the first shot in. All right. So he said, and they're running away. And so I actually had this whole thing. They were running away to tell their parents, and they were going to regroup and laying in wait for me somewhere in this village. And so, you know what? I'm thinking not going there again. I'm not going to go into this village. You know what? I think I'm just going to call it quits. They call it even or whatever. I launched a jihad, they threw the rock, and I'm just going to not throw the rock at them and not go back in the village. I'm going to go back to my little bungalow here and relax like all of it, And, I don't know what they were planning. I had no idea how far they were going to take this thing. But I decided, what I could do is I could simply end this jihad right here and now. Okay. And I did. And I think I learned a valuable lesson. In fact, what I did is equivalent to what Menachem Begin and Anwar Sadat did. I think I could call it the Camp Bahariya Accords, because I think I did end a potential holy war between Americans, maybe, I don't know, and the people there in this oasis town. And the lesson I learned, and this is the one thing I do want you to know, is how do you stop this cycle of violence in the Middle East? I'm thinking, firstly, is you don't throw the rock back. Just don't throw the rock back. And the second thing is, don't go around saying jihad all the time. If you just simply don't throw rocks and don't say jihad, there can be peace in the Middle East. And I think it's time for my Nobel Peace Prize Thank you very much for your attention kindly, and please spread the word about the Camp Bauria Oasis Accords that I have started here. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I love you all. Thank you very much.